You're listening to Uncoupled and Unfiltered, the show for people smart enough to get out of the wrong relationship and bold enough to do it without losing their damn minds. Hosted by Ksenia Mensch, a divorce strategist and straight-talking badass, this podcast is your no-fluff, no-shame, take-control guide to surviving litigated divorce with clarity, guts, and zero regrets. Let's get into it. Here's Ksenia.
Welcome back to Uncoupled and Unfiltered. I'm your host, Ksenia Mensch, and today I'm chatting with Shari Rash, a nationally recognized financial advisor, money mindset expert, and the voice behind Everyone Talking Money, which has been named a top 4 money podcast by the New York Times with over 24 million downloads. Shari is the founder of GWA Wealth, where she helps people simplify money, ditch shame, and build confidence about finances, especially during life transitions like divorce. So today we're unpacking financial planning for single women, removing emotions from money, personal financial advice, and best practices. So if you're ready to rethink your relationship with money, especially during transitions like divorce, this conversation is for you. So click like and subscribe, and let's dive in. Shari, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Me too. So, why women need a little different guidance when it comes to financial planning?
Women absolutely need different guidance. For one, I've been in the financial services industry my entire career, so 20 some years. And I've always throughout time noticed like I just felt different than my male counterparts. And financial services is male dominated. So it was
Yes.
not uncommon for me to be the only woman in a room during meetings and conferences and stuff like that. And I always just felt like an outsider. It always just felt different. And so, and then as time went on and I'm having more and more conversations with friends or other women in the industry or males in the industry, my clients, a common theme just kept happening is that there was just a disconnect between when men would talk about money and when I would talk about money with women. And so I started to do more and more research on this. And it is true. Women think about money differently than men. And because financial services is so male dominated, if a woman were to go seek out advice, likely it'd be much easier for her to get advice from a male, right?
Yes.
But the message that men put out is very different than the message a woman puts out. Women think about money in what can it do for me? How can it help me achieve things? Where men think about money in terms of performance and numbers and accumulating. So like their goal is like, I want a certain amount in my account, where a woman's goal is, I want this account to do XYZ for me. So it's two different languages. And as the advisor, if you don't realize that and speak the female language, the female is going to leave the meeting going, I have no idea what they were just talking about. But instead of like questioning it, it then goes, well, I clearly have no idea about money. I can't do this. And I'm not good at this. I'm never going to be good at this. But it wasn't your fault. It's just a different language was being spoken to you.
You hit the nail on the head. Is when men don't speak the same, like we walk away empty because like you said, a lot of times when I look at my bank account, oh, can I afford this purse? This is what I'm thinking. I know I pay the bills, right? I know I take care of my kids, but this purse would really make me feel good right about now. It's very different mindset. And if a man cannot communicate with us, hey, you have money on the purse, like they have to translate their language into something that resonates with us and our values in a way. Like the purse for us is the life altering decision. And I mean, it is what it is, right? So, what mistakes do you see women make during life transitions, like divorce. They now running on their own. They talk to a financial male advisor who basically told them, okay, here's your budget. You go outside of that, you're screwed. And you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? Right.
Yeah.
So how first, what mistakes do you see and how would you make it land on women a little softer so they don't feel devastated basically by this change?
Well, the first mistake, and we kind of can't undo this, but never being involved in your household finances to
Yes.
begin with.
Hmm.
So you're going through this major life transition, a divorce, a breakup. That's terrible. But then on top of it, you're now in charge of your money that you've had no experience with for your entire adult life. Like that's a double whammy, right?
Hmm.
So at least if you can, as you're starting to go through the process, or maybe you know a divorce is coming, or start to become more familiar with your finances, what your household has,
Hmm.
money in, money out, different accounts, what it all means. Not every dollar is created equal. So understanding what you have. Then, as you're going through the transition, you need to find someone that can be in your corner. So, someone that speaks your language that can help guide you.
Hmm.
And if you need, and really just get help hold your hand so you can understand what this new financial life is going to look like, right? You're
Hmm.
going from potentially a dual income or a single income household to a single income or no income household. So, what does that
Yes.
mean? So, helping you understand what money's coming in, what's going out, what your values are. So, what's important to you with money, um, and making sure your money goes to what's important to you. So, really, someone that can help guide you, help you understand what you have. As far as your accounts go, not just the dollar amount, but what it means. Like, what's the difference between a 401k and a 529? Like, what
Hmm.
does that mean? So really finding someone that you're comfortable with. I always say, when you're looking to, hire an advisor or bring someone onto your team, you need to like them as a person. When something major goes on in your life, and it usually involves money, they're going to be one of the top 5 phone calls you're making. And if you're like,
Hmm.
man, I really can't stand this guy, but I guess I got to call him. Like, would you call him? No. So, like, they're going to be in the dark. So, you need to really like your advisor,
Hmm.
anyone on your financial team as a person.
Yes, you're so right. I've talked to so many women. They're going through divorce. They've never paid a bill in their lives. And I sit and scratch my head because to me, this is giving away so much power. And I'm not saying paying bills is a privilege. I'm just saying understanding how it works, the accounts you need to set up, because some clients I even had to teach, okay, what do you need to cover in terms of its expenses? So your house is running like water, electricity, like there was no understanding. And to me, it's baffling that women take such a backseat when it comes to finances that yes, they start fumbling when they are on their own. And frequently those type of women, they don't have an income. So they rely on alimony of their former spouse. Um, when it comes to divorce, so let's say a woman comes to you, she's going through divorce, and she has to make a decision. Let's say she is the recipient of alimony. What would you recommend? Monthly payments or a payout?
Oh, that depends. I guess it would be a payout of what? Not every dollar's created equal.
Mm-hmm.
So so most people get into the trap of all of their wealth is tied up in 2 places. The first is the equity of their home,
Okay.
and the second is their retirement accounts. That's
Mm-hmm.
where most people hold their wealth. And the problem with that is that they are not very liquid, right?
No,
I
they're
mean,
not.
yeah, you can access your home equity, but then you're paying loans and interest on it, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
my money. Yeah, but you're still paying an interest rate on it. Or retirement If you are younger than 59 and a half, you are going to pay a penalty, a 10% penalty to access those funds. Plus, everyone's going to pay taxes if it's pre-tax
Yes.
retirement money. So a mistake we make, anyone makes, is that we just focus on those two things as far as building net worth goes. So to your question of, well, should we get a payout? Well, where's that payout coming from? If all the money is retirement, we don't want
Mm,
that, right? Because that doesn't create a very friendly receiving environment for us because we're
hmm
paying penalties and taxes on it, on our withdrawals. Or is it, well, I'm getting the house and all this equity? Yeah, but you can't access the equity without
That's
a
true.
line of credit. So it depends. It really depends on what is better.
Oh, got it. It's a great point. Like the liquidity is huge because actually that's one of my next questions. When it comes to high conflict divorces, even though it's finalized and thus technically settles, you can be dragged to court anytime for whatever reason, groundless motions, the motions with grounds, you have to defend yourself. So how would you recommend, so the women, let's say they have, yes, they have equity in the house, they have 401k, but they're also in a situation when they're waiting for the shoe to drop, and the legal fees can be hundreds and thousands of dollars. So how would you work with women, helping them build this safety net that they can go to if they find themselves in a situation they've been subpoenaed again?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as building a safety net, it may come to now going out and getting earned income, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, creating income, and that gives you power, right? The earned income,
Yes.
if it comes to the point of like, listen, I know that you had you were home and you lived off of one income before, and now you're divorced. It may be in your best interest to go get a job so you can have that freedom, have that
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, so that you're not relying on these non-liquid assets to pay your fees, pay your bills, and all of that. And it gives you more power as well, more control. So you can have that flexibility. So that might be part of the conversation is, how can we put things more in your control versus just sitting around waiting or depending on others for your
Mm-hmm.
livelihood?
What about do you recommend women keeping, like, again, in for a rainy day, keeping cash like in the bank? And I know the interest that we get on that is extreme, it's basically nothing. Or investing, but then if you invest and you have to sell stocks, even though they're liquid, you have to pay interest on those, the capital gains, right? So what is your recommendation when you know your client is kind of like there is that level of uncertainty?
Everyone should have money in the bank. No matter, I mean, that is like step one. So when I'm working with my clients and, it's day one, we're going through what is in your checking account, what is in your savings account, what is in your investments, if applicable, and how much should be in there. I find often with women, especially, it's hard for us to make a big decision like, do I invest or do I buy a house or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, if we don't feel confident in our little tiny decisions? Like,
Okay.
how much should I have in my checking account? How much, or should I have money in the bank? So I'm first working with my clients of how much money should we have in your checking account? And then the next step is, once that's decided, the next step is, how much should I have in the bank? And yes, everyone should have money in the bank, even though it's not earning a lot of interest, because you need that liquidity, you need that cash. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an emergency fund. And rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses is how much you should have in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can quickly, figure out, okay, if my expenses are $5,000 a month, I need between $15,000 and $30,000 sitting in the bank. Now, someone may go, $30,000, that's a lot of money to be sitting there. That's fine. There's a math to it, but then there's an artistic element. So then we work it out like, okay, 30 sounds like too much, feels like too much to you. That's fine. Does 20 sound a little? Yeah, that sounds a little bit better. Fine. So the beauty of a lot of things with money is that we are given the guidance, like we know the math of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next step is what feels good. If I say to you, you should have $30,000 in the bank, and like you're just thinking, that just feels like too much, or that doesn't feel like enough, whatever it is, if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel right, you're not going to do it, or you're not going to be happy about your experience. So we have to do what feels good. But so a
Mm-hmm.
long answer to your short question is, how much should you have money in the bank? Absolutely. Everyone should have an emergency fund for that reason. An emergency cash, it's there. It's not earning much, but that's okay. Then once you have that fully funded emergency fund, however much is appropriate for you, then you can invest. So then ideally, you're not using that investment income really until you really need it. Like, because if something comes up, you have the cash on hand in the bank waiting to be used.
Okay. How I know from personal perspective, I have a fear in terms of investments because I don't fully understand this, to be honest, like this whole tool, and that's on me. Like I know I need to educate myself better in that respect, and also partner up with people, or who, or the financial advisors who know that. But also, like, to me, and maybe this is a female mentality, it's like giving money away. I'm not seeing it, and it's scary. Like it just going somewhere. It's like poof, I don't have it.
Yeah.
So how do you work with, is it just me being, is it normal women mentality that investment can be scary this way?
That's normal because no one ever sits you down and says, here's how investments work. Right?
Okay.
Like no one ever says like this is how it works. So you've never most women have never received that education. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
question mark. So of course we're not comfortable with something that we don't completely understand, and women want to understand things before we do them. So we want to understand, and it's not as if we want to know the ins and outs of the stock market and everything
No.
about it, but we just need to feel confident that like our money's going to be there if something
Mm-hmm.
happens. And also that someone can answer our quote unquote silly questions. Because everyone, I have a question. It's silly. It's silly. I'm
I
asking this,
know.
but it's not silly. No one's ever told you it. We never get this education. They're not. It's not silly questions if you're wondering, because you're not alone. So yeah, you finding someone that can help you, that can explain it, answer all your questions, and that's when you're truly going to feel more comfortable, right? And then it
Mm-hmm.
just take time. I mean, it's going to take time. You're going to need to, and that's what's hard about money, especially today. Everything's digital, right? Your
Yes.
money's just numbers on a screen or numbers in an app. We don't feel it, touch it anymore. We don't use cash anymore. So time needs to go by where you've received the statements, you can see the numbers going up. Sometimes it's going to go down, but it goes back up,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that experience, and knowing that it's there and having someone to guide you through it. That is what it's not snap your fingers overnight. Now you should feel comfortable. It does take time, but the biggest thing is education.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on why money is so emotional for women? Like we talk, men, I know they can get triggered, but there is something different about how they approach. It's a tool for them. For women, it's almost like in a way, it's a lifeline. And I do not know if it's because we also like we have nurturing in us, right? Like we're mothers, and there is just something that is on subconscious level that it's truly our lifeline, and emotions are very difficult to take out of that.
Yeah. So the first is understanding your relationship with money.
Okay.
So, some things I'll say to my clients is, when I say the word money, what comes to mind? Like, what's the first thing you think of?
Purse. I'm just,
Purse.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But that's not a bad answer, because that tells me that one of your values is stuff. Like, what can it
Yeah.
buy for me? What can it do for me? And that's
Yeah.
great. Cool. Same. So that's fine. So that there's no wrong answer, right? Some other women may say freedom, travel, helping other. anything. Or
Yes. Mm-hmm.
so that's like, okay, well, that's where, or it might be stress, anxiety,
Mm.
nervous, not enough, wherever we go. And then it's, well, what, once we kind of say like, give me some ideas of what we think of, then what was one of your first money memories? That's a question I'll ask.
Mm.
And that will give a very good indication of what your relationship with money is. Like, I've had a client that said, one of my first memories is my parents were divorced, and I would hear my mom ask my dad for money to pay for things for me, and he would say no. And like, then my mom would struggle, and it created this whole thing that like, I'm not worthy. He's withholding, she's
Mm-hmm.
begging, like it created a whole thing. Like, so it's like, but then exploring that, what does that mean? So then that helps to determine why you feel the way you do about money. And
Mm-hmm.
the important thing is like, we don't need to change it. Awareness is the key. So just being aware of, money, I always feel like I never have enough, or, I never want to feel like I don't have enough. So that's why I'm going to keep working and accumulating, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So identifying the emotions that we put on our money. Then, and this is where, I help my clients is I help acknowledge the emotion. I'm never trying to undo the emotion or say, no, that's wrong. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's there. It's there. Like, but let's just like
Mm-hmm.
put it to the side right now. And let's look at the numbers. And because
Mm-hmm.
the numbers, they don't have emotion. Like, we look at your spending, we look at whatever, they're just numbers. Like, we're the ones that
Mm-hmm.
slap, oh my gosh, I can't believe I spent this much here, I did this. And we put all that, no, let's push it aside. Like, you're not right, you're not wrong, let's just push it aside right now. So really understanding where the emotions are coming from is super important, and we're never going to get rid of them, but we just need to acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
them.
Do you find that sometimes women, and I mean, listen, we, especially when divorce happens, we get settlement money, or we were free for the first time in years, probably. So we go and we do some dumb shit. We do, whether we dump money on travel, whether we go and buy something that we never need, but it makes us feel good in the moment. But then if we go, or when we go to financial advisor, we feel we have to face the judgment. And we are afraid of you to say, well, that was dumb. I know deep inside it was dumb, but now it's like, it's a little late. So how do you work with that emotions and help women overcome the feeling of being judged, which I know you don't, but this is how I think we operate, and we think we're being judged because we made mistakes.
So so in if you feel like you're being judged, one, you should not be working with that person. Like, if it's ever
Okay.
like, oh, I can't call them, I can't talk to them, I'm going to avoid meeting with them because I'm afraid what they're going to say to me, they're not a resource for you. They may be
Okay.
great for someone else. Like, their style may work perfectly for someone else, and whatever, but they're not for you. If you Now, there's some statistic, like, people would rather go to the dentist than meet with their financial advisor. Like, there's some silly statistic out there.
That's so bad.
So bad. But it shouldn't be that way. So if you're
Okay.
feeling that way and you already are working with someone, then that just means that person's not for you, because it
Okay.
shouldn't feel that way. You should feel empowered. Like, yeah, I mean, we're not going to go and celebrate the fact that, you blew this money or whatever. But what I say, you need to find someone that works with you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whenever my clients get a settlement, a bonus, whatever, a windfall. Yeah. We're going to do something with this. Like, you want to go on a trip, you want to buy a purse, what do you want to do? Great. And let's set aside some money for that, so you can go and do it
Mm-hmm.
without that nagging feeling of, oh man, I just screwed up. Because
Yes.
you're going to go take that 10% of it, do whatever you want to do with it. and have the freedom and the confidence and the empowerment to know that I can do this and it's okay and guilt-free. And then I know the other 90%, Shari's helping me to do really good things with that stuff, with that. So there has to be we can't feel bad about it. And I think that's an issue that a lot of women have, is that they feel like they're going to be judged or looked down on or told like that was a bad idea. And again, if you have someone in your life that's a professional that's doing that for you, I would highly suggest finding someone else. If you're afraid of that conversation, like you're not even working with anyone, you're just afraid of the judgment, date financial advisors, have a 30-minute meeting. You're going to tell very quickly how they're going to speak to you. You're going to get a feel very quickly of, am I going to be judged? And you don't even have to bring up that kind of stuff. Or give a hypothetical. Say I got, a bonus and I spent half of it on this. What would you say to me?
Yes.
Play those hypotheticals. So then you'll know very quickly what your experience with them would be like, so you can avoid it.
So you basically, when you're interviewing, or how you call it, dating the financial advisors, make sure that you prefer to go to them versus dentist, right?
Yes, exactly. Don't dread the meeting.
How about this? One of the questions, I know I had to face these decisions, and I will tell you what I decided to do eventually. But let's say a woman now, single, looking, she needs a new car, right? She has money in the settlement. Would you recommend taking out a loan or pay cash?
It depends. It depends. So, one thing I say a lot to my clients is, how is your dollar working harder for you? So what that means is, a question like that. Do I pay cash for a car? Do I pay off my mortgage? Do I cash out my investment to pay off my mortgage? Whatever. Where is your dollar working harder for you? So if you're buying a car and the interest rate is 7%, yeah, it probably makes sense to use cash if you have the cash on hand, because you're not going to be earning 7% from the bank. If it's cashing out an investment, and maybe not, because on average, we can expect, over time, a 7% rate of return. So that's what feels better. Does it feel better to have no car payment, or does it feel better to have money in your investment? Or do we do a happy medium? Do we take some out and put a chunk down so you have a lower monthly payment? Conversely, if your interest rate you're paying is 2%, and it may not make sense to cash out an investment to pay off the car, because your dollar is working harder for you generally investing.
Yes.
So there's more to it, right? So, but again, there's the math, which I go through the math, but then I'll with my clients, I'll go through the math, but then I'll say, what feels better?
Because a lot of times, you pointed it out, sometimes people, I just don't want to have a car payment. They feel there is sense of freedom and empowerment when they own something rather than paying the bank. So I ended up actually paying cash, but I bought a cheap car, and I did not cash out investments, because I will, like, to me, it's a double whammy. Like you said, my dollar, I would lose out on paying the capital gains during tax season. And then I am getting, probably it's offset when I was buying a car, because the interest rate was about 6 or 7%. So, and I'm like, it didn't make sense. But when I had cash, I decided to invest it this way. And yes, I felt really good that I owned the car versus keep paying payments on it. It's just like you said, you have to really find this happy medium. What about investing into secondary property? So let's say they are already, women own a house or whatever part of settlement, since we're talking about divorce. And would you suggest let's say they have enough to buy a secondary home, like a rental property, or invest in stocks, let's say?
So again, there's so much to that, right?
Yeah.
So if is the second home, do you want to be a landlord? If something breaks, Are you going to fix it? Are you hiring someone to fix it? How much then is that person charging you if you're hiring it out? Do you really feel like dealing with renters or
Yes.
whatever it is? What are the property taxes? If it's, a condo or a townhouse or just in an HOA, what are the HOA fees? What's the insurance? So there's a lot, because often we'll think about, property taxes are just going up, and I want to be part of that and have property that goes up in value. But again, it's going up in value. It's a non-liquid asset. So yeah,
Yes.
it's going up in value, but you really don't have access to it. And then how much are you paying for the upkeep, for the insurance, for the property taxes, where it may just make more sense to have the money invested and growing and, there. And then you also don't have the monthly or annual cost of it. So it really is it depends type of scenario. But again, weighing the pros and the cons, and my job is to ask you questions that you may not have considered, or bring up points you may not have been considered, and really be that neutral party for you.
I think also a lot of times women don't fully understand the total cost of owning a home. Because again, if they were with a partner who took care of all the payments and financial side of the family business, as I call it, how would I know that, yeah, insurance, that it goes up every year and it depends on so many factors, right? There are property taxes. If you're in California, there is Melrose that is, assigned to a specific property. There is maintenance costs. There is just so much. The mortgage part, it seems like the lowest, to be honest, out of the total cost that it can add up to. And I think as women, we're just kind of we have blindfolds. Sometimes
Yeah.
we're not seeing the big picture.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the job of someone on your financial team, to bring these thoughts up to you. So then at least if you're making a decision, you're making a fully educated decision.
What do you think one financial rule that is outdated right now and just wrong, but a lot of people and women still follow it?
Ooh. Um, I mean, I think we're hitting on a lot of it, in that women, not being involved with their money, or like, that's my husband's job, or that's someone else's job. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 5,000 times, like, oh, my husband handles all the money. He has a spreadsheet. It's always my
Oh yeah.
husband handles the money and he has a spreadsheet. And it's like, great. Do you know where that spreadsheet is? Do you have access to that spreadsheet? If something were to happen to him, like, how screwed are you? Like, if you know where everything is? So I think that that's probably the biggest outdated, or that you aren't good at money. Like, women, there's no reason for women to not be good at money, or doing money, or understanding money. Again, it's just because one, were never taught it, and two, if you were taught it, it was likely from your father, who spoke a very different language than you. And so no wonder why it didn't resonate. So that would be the most outdated, is that women are just not good at money, or I'm not good at money.
What is one money habit that pays off over time?
Automation. So money loves automation. Money loves consistency.
Okay.
So another outdated thought, or a thought that we need to get rid of, is like, well, I don't have enough to invest. Whatever, you don't need, you can start with zero. You can start with $10 a month. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, so money likes consistency. So if you want to start investing, or you want to start saving, whatever it is, set up an automation, $10 a month to go, even if it's into a different bank account, do something.
Okay.
Just so you can see that it's happening. You realize, oh, I don't even miss that money. It's somewhere else. And then that account is getting bigger, even if it's not invested yet, even if it's just growing due to your monthly contributions. And like 6 months, a year will go by, and you go, oh my goodness, like, look at all this money I have here. Like, I forgot about it. This is awesome. And it's going to give you that confidence and empower you. So just that. So set up something, even if you think you can't afford it. Don't go crazy. Like $100 a month, to whatever it is, set up
Hmm.
something that is not going to break you, and then kind of forget about it, and then just let it grow.
That I agree. I think a lot of times we block ourselves and say, "Oh, we can't afford it," or "It's not the right time." The 401k, I think, is a big tool like that. When you automatically set it up, and a few years down the road, you're like, "Oh my gosh, there is great rate of return, and I invested here." And if there is employer matching policy, that it adds up quickly. It just starting. It's getting over that hurdle that I do have extra $50 to put somewhere or $100. I think that's again, it's very emotional for women. I'm not sure why we're so blocked that way.
Well, again, the $50, can I afford the $50? Can I afford the $100? Like that decision, we need to know we can afford it. We need to know there's enough money in our checking account. We need to know there's more coming in than what's going out. We need to handle we need to have an understanding of all that basic stuff first before we can make the big decision, which that big decision in your
Hmm.
example is starting that automatic investing in your 401k. So getting a handle on the little stuff first helps you and just like frees you to feel way more confident in the bigger stuff down the road.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about another emotional aspect when it comes to money. And for me, I feel like I struggle with it every day as a divorced single mom. My kids come to me and like, oh, mom, I need this. Mom, I need this. And when you're going through high conflict divorce, a lot of times it's no contact with the other house, which means you try to avoid any conversations about money. So you just pay. So how broke or how in debt should it sounds wrong as I'm saying it out loud, but again, it's very emotional decision investing in kids. Should I go to cover expenses for the children? I hope I made sense what I said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. Because I feel like that's so individualized, like based on your situation. If one idea may just be, through the proceedings, creating like a kitty, like a kid kitty account. So like,
Mm-hmm.
we each put, I don't know, whatever amount in there each month. So then when your kid comes to you and says, "Hey, I have this birthday party," or "I have this," like
Mm-hmm.
it's there. And like you have the receipts, you can back it up, it can all be documented, like it's all like, it's legit. So then you both are contributing to it and then using it as stuff comes up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, well, it's kind of like what feels worse, having debt or speaking to your ex to ask for money. It comes down to an emotional thing. We can present the
Yes.
math, but it has to feel good at the end of the day. So if there's some way to come up with like a compromise of like, hey, let's just both have this account, we both want what's best for our kids,
Mm-hmm.
we're not, we will provide receipts, when asked, like, or like we won't spend more than $100 out of it without like a text or something I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like some type of compromise, because yeah, you don't want to say no to your kids and for stuff that like you may not necessarily need to say no to.
Yes.
So coming up with, and if everyone, is working together and at least has the best interest of the kids at heart, like hopefully a compromise that way can
Mm-hmm.
come. But so yeah, I would say that's a super individualized
Mm-hmm.
scenario, but that's kind of my initial thought with that.
Yes. I love the idea of the account. It's uh depends on level of conflict and where couples are at in their divorce proceedings, whether it's aftermath, whether you're still in it. It's just like I know that again, this is a decision I'm struggling with every day because like as kids getting older, it's becoming, oh, I need a car. But then I fully understand you get a car, there is a car maintenance, you're not getting a new car. So you're getting a piece of shed car, which means there is a warranty. Then there is insurance to add you on my policy, which, damn kid, you're expensive. But it's like, it's a necessity, right? You have to do it, but it digs you into this financial hole because even if you reach out to the other house, I mean, the best answer you can get no, the other ones can be a lot of other words, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I always question. And I know a lot of my listeners will have the same. Well, how deep in a financial hole should I be going? Because I mean, my kid's 17, 16. So I'm like, all right. And I have like, so a couple of more years, I should be free. Or do I have enough? Right. But it's that emotional investment into children that is tied to financial well-being of me at this point. It's a rough balance, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. And, it's kind of like looking backwards, but, if your listeners are in the situation of like they're divorcing or thinking about divorce, like thinking of stuff like this, like what are some of
Yes.
these big expenses, or like how are we, and that needs to be agreed upon. Like who's going to
Yes.
buy the car? Are we going to split it? Well, you make 3 times the amount of money I make, so like splitting it doesn't necessarily make sense. College, how is that going to be handled? Like
Yes.
think about all of these, try to think about all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It all is just a bullet point. Like, how are we going to handle this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, if it's after the fact, it's like, well, you know, presenting, just the facts of the matter, and hopefully cooler heads can
Mm-hmm.
prevail. But
Yes.
coming up with these plans for, the best interest of the children.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I would say like definitely you don't want to put the kids in the middle of it, right? Don't have the
No.
children go to their father and say I need money for this, like because that or mom says to ask me, like, oh gosh, that'll create a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
issue. But you know if you can, or can at least present ideas and like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost, here's the plan, like here's my
Mm-hmm.
idea, like what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
So having like, so if they're saying no, at least they're saying no or giving a hard time about like a very clear, concise,
Mm-hmm.
finite number or question versus just, hey, can I have money for
Mm-hmm.
such and such?
Yeah. And you brought up an excellent point for people going through divorce. I know when we're in that process, we are very short-sighted. We're just like, okay, here's a snapshot of the assets, here's financial picture, here's the kids until 18, and we're done. We never think of specifics and decisions that we have to make. So include the car payments, who puts it on insurance, include that in your provisions of the settlement. It's co-parenting plan, right? It include about the college. So you don't have to have this tug of war when it comes later. It's already outlined. I know on the front end, it may be a little more challenging because, again, I have to be more involved with financial advisors to make sure that the settlement is fair. I can afford contributing to the car costs and whatever else comes out, right? But outlining it so in the future, you don't have to do things like I am right now struggling with. You save yourself a lot of mental health
Yeah.
and finances too.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, your kids are older, or don't. This doesn't apply anywhere, but like summer camp, after school programs,
oh my gosh, yes.
sports, all of that stuff. Like it shouldn't fall on one person, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
one parent that's doing the signing up, which is usually moms doing the summer
Yep.
camp signing up. Like it shouldn't just fall on. So thinking about that stuff, which is why when you're going through this, you really should have a financial resource in
Absolutely.
your corner. And like that's not your attorney. Like the attorneys really can't help you with the financial stuff of it and
Mm-hmm.
going through this. So getting having a financial advisor that can guide you through and bring up these things, and
Mm-hmm.
again removing some of the emotion from it, can really
Mm-hmm.
help you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. When I work with my clients, when the clients approach me, it's interesting. I always work with them on shifting the mindset because they're like, oh, I'm ready to file for divorce. I'm reaching out to an attorney. And I'm like, no, you need to reach a financial advisor first. First, print pictures, know what the taxes look like, understand, what the statements, where the money is at, what do you guys own? Go to financial advisor so you can understand how much can you rent when you move out, right? Maybe how much alimony is reasonable for you to ask. So again, you need to educate yourself by working and partnering up with an expert in finances because that is one of the biggest areas of your life that will be impacted. And a lot of people, they don't think that. They're like, oh, we'll just file. And then what? Okay. And then you put out fires because you had no idea. You just walked into like a room that is completely dark and now you're stepping on Legos all over it. You know?
That's right.
So,
Yes.
what's the best money advice you've ever received?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I will say it's a lesson that I've taught myself through life experience. So it's a kind of so I didn't necessarily, I received it through my experiences, I'll say,
Okay.
because I wasn't necessarily sat down and taught money. So I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, like most people have their wealth tied up in the net worth of their home and their
Mm-hmm.
retirement. Don't be that. Don't do that. So when I first started working, you talked about the 401k. I put so much money into my 401k. Like I loved the idea of the money going in there and it growing and all of that. That I didn't do the saving for the money that I need 5 years down the road, 6
Mm,
months down the road. I had so much wrapped up in retirement, but it's not accessible. So the
mm-hmm.
best piece of advice I believe is understanding the different types of dollars, the liquidity of the different, how much you can access of the money, and make sure you have enough everywhere. So yeah, be good to future you, but future you is not just retired you. Future you is 5 years from down the line
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm. And what's one thing you wish every woman knew about money that we haven't discussed yet? I
That we
know we
haven't
discussed the
discussed yet.
emotions. I know women
Yes.
have to have responsibility to themselves to educate themselves on, again, liquidity, different types of financial vehicles that is available to them. But what one thing you wish women knew?
I wish more women knew that it's not intimidating. It's not hard.
Mm-hmm. It's a big block because it feel and maybe because we've been men explained all these years, and it's not the language we speak. So to us, it's truly we're deer in the headlights. It's like, oh my gosh, you cannot do this. This is too much.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, it's simplifying. So partnering up with the right expert who can simplify the money talk, remove like you talk about it, remove shame from it, remove also feeling of being judged. If you do feel judged, go find another professional, or if you feel you're judging yourself, you need to fix your relationship with money, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
how can women find you?
Yeah. So my firm is called GWA Wealth. So you can go
Hmm.
to gwawealth.com, learn more about me, learn how I work with my clients. I also have a podcast, as you mentioned, Everyone's Talking Money, TALKIN. So I put out 2 episodes a week, and we really just focus on removing the shame, removing the junk when it comes to money. And of course, there's personal finance tips and tricks and all
Hmm.
in the podcast as well. So those are the 2 best ways to find me.
Well, Shari, thank you so much for being here. I'll include everything in the notes so women have you as an incredible resource, and also come to you when if things get rough or when they feel uncertain and scared. Like money, it can be scary too when you're feeling like you're running out of it. But thank you for sharing expertise. Thank you for translating for women what money is all about and how we're not that dumb.
That's
And we
right.
can do
That's
it.
right. We can. Yes.
Uh,
Thank you.
well, and thank you guys for listening to Uncoupled and Unfiltered.
That's it for this episode of Uncoupled and Unfiltered. If you're loving the raw truth and practical takeaways, do the badass thing and rate and review the show wherever you listen. It helps more good people find their way out of the chaos. And check the show notes. Yeah, we actually put some useful stuff in there. Resources, links, tools, go grab what you need. Until next time, don't settle, don't shrink, and don't look back.